everyone. This is David Starr from WatcherPass.com, your website for movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Today, I'm joined by Jason Tobias, the co-director, co-writer, and star of F.E.A.R, or F.E.A.R. We're going to talk to him in just a second, but first, let's check out the trailer. And while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. I'll spend a lot. Thank you.
It began slowly.
Environmental impact on the area's water supply.
We learned that containment was no longer an option.
There's no hiding. And there's no running from it. Fear. It's always going to be there.
All right, there we go. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing awesome, man. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me on.
No, thanks for joining me. So thanks so much. This is Jason Tobias, the co-writer, co-director, producer, and star of F.E.A.R, or F.E.A.R. So it's being released on June 15th, 2021 digitally, so you can check it out from the comfort of your home. You might want to, your isolated cabin in the woods, far from all the danger, might be a good place. But thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Of course. So I guess the first question is, you took on a lot of hats in this film. Why? I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that take on the amount of stuff that you take on. They're like, it was a great, horrible, exhausting experience. So I guess what led you to take on these many roles for this film?
And just to kind of lead into that, I loved it.
Okay.
I know every experience can be different for everybody. I know that the challenges that come with filmmaking are enormous. So, you're always trying to put a Band-Aid on something, you're trying to fix things, and, it can be very challenging. So I do understand that. But in our position, the task was just what it needed to be. I did not mind being, like you had said, wrote, co-direct, produced, starred in, and we run the production company as well, Action Figure Entertainment. So, you just have to wear all the hats. No pun intended. But yeah, I think it was a great process because we have fantastic people on board. Lucas Solomon, Blair Pennington, the executive producers, are just fantastic leaders on set, not only on and off set. Geoff is just an amazing collaborator. He and I have worked together for years now, just coming up with concepts, shooting things. He was one of the first directors. He was a cinematographer actually in one of the first couple of projects I ever worked in. And when you have that kind of shorthand with people and you just have great people in their positions, you kind of just trust to the best of your ability that everybody's going to cover what they need to cover.
I guess that makes sense. If you've worked with them before, you kind of know that they can handle it. You can dip your feet in a lot of different pools because you know that you're not going to be carrying the whole load, which
Absolutely. I mean, with just even on the co-directing side with Geoff, there was a period in the pre-production where he could not be that involved just because he was currently located in Illinois when we were in Southern California. So, I just took on as much as I could, and I would keep him in the loop as much as possible just so we could kind of get up to speed on what we were going to handle. And then obviously with production, we flew him out and tackled everything in Southern Cal. But it's just, again, if you have the opportunity to work with people that you have that shorthand with, and you know that you're on the same page, you have the discussions prior to, doesn't mean everything's going to go perfect. It just means that you're going to be able to, when the problems do arise and the challenges do pop up, you're going to be able to come to conclusions and solutions a lot faster.
Definitely, that makes sense. And this was I think this was your first time directing. So was that part of the inspiration for this project, or was it just kind of a necessity as you were moving along, like, well, we need someone else to help out because of Geoff's schedule or something like that? Or was this always kind of a plan for you to kind of get behind the camera as well and flex that muscle?
I think it was a combination of both of the things you just mentioned there. I had not directed anything to this level at this point. I'd written a lot of shorts. I'd written a bunch of features. I'd always been active as far as being in the Video Village area, talking with directors that were working on projects that we'd done. But it's a tall order to be able to say that you're going to do direct, produce, star, etc. But even in having the conversations with Geoff, Geoff felt more comfortable when we started to talk about, hey, where do you have the time to tackle this? And if it was turning into, oh, you know what, I don't have the time, I said, well, I'll take that on. It's not a problem. And we just developed that relationship early on of just saying, well, let's just direct this together. It seems like it's probably the best way to get this done with your schedule and my schedule, and it just worked out great.
That makes perfect sense. And also the film deals with a type of, kind of a pandemic. We'll call it a pandemic. I'm curious, pandemic films that come out around now, was this film made post-COVID, somewhere in between? How did that kind of go about?
It was all pre-COVID. The script
So this is your fault. This whole thing is your fault.
There you go. Here's the fall guy. Direct them to this video. You get a lot of hits. So it was pre-pandemic. The script was wrapped up and buttoned up and pitched in like the spring of 2018. So we were starting to ramp up, fall of 2018. So the story was just a combination of things that I really enjoyed, being like a big video game fan growing up. And obviously I do enjoy the post-apocalyptic landscape in films and genre stuff with horror, survival thrillers and things like that. So our DP was like, hey man, did you see this coming? Did you see it? I was like, no, but it's kind of crazy that we're kind of living through parts of it.
Yeah, no, it's kind of an interesting, film to come out now. You got people that are unsure what's going to happen, and thankfully, maybe, yours is coming out maybe as the world's about to open. We hope, I guess, but
things are looking up. Fingers crossed.
So you mentioned that you're a big video game fan. I definitely got Last of Us vibes in this, especially your character with the bow and some of the kind of like scavenging and just the general outlook of it. So was that an inspiration for this film?
Absolutely. Growing up, I played a lot of Resident Evil, Left 4 Dead. Last of Us was a really cool game because it was just like an amazing cinematic experience. Gaming started to turn into, it was like you were navigating cutscenes after a while, whereas you had the tank controls of Resident Evil 1 where up was always up, left and right, and down was on your D-pad, and you're like, I'm stuck in a corner. But it was a big influence for just, I wanted to write something that dealt with something more than just jump scares, or more than just it being about, hey, this terrible calamity or this collapse of whatever it might be. I was really interested in the relationships. So I loved what they did in the Resident Evil series with that. I loved how things were finite in those games. You only had one pack of ammo, and depending on if you beat it in a certain amount of time or got the S ranks, you get unlimiteds. But, I enjoyed that kind of challenge of what would you do if you were just in the shit and you only had, a little bit of food, a little bit of water, a little bit of ammunition. And you really quickly start to see how people, your fellow man, et cetera, are just, those are the ones you have to be the most careful for. So that was a huge inspiration for it.
Yeah, definitely. I missed the scene where he saved his progress on a typewriter. Maybe that's in the director's cut of the film.
Yeah, that was in the extended cut. That when we showed it, they're like, it's not getting the audience. That old sound that
just sit there for like 10 minutes as he's typing.
Yeah. And the slow door opens between like loading another part of the map. Like, we're going to another location. Let's get a door swinging open here.
It's the same door every time, no matter which location you're going to.
Yeah. Right? It's like either in the house or a lab, or like, oh, this is weird tarnished wooden door. You'd think they'd have like a nice sleek metal door in a lab.
You never know, right? These zombie labs, they gotta make what they can. They gotta make do with what they have. So
yeah, true.
And it seems like the other thing you really wanted to point out in this film is that kids ruin everything. At least that's what I got from this film. At least the first half of it. So.
Yeah. The initial idea or the kernel of what the inspiration of the story was, it was just about a husband and wife who lets a drifter into their cabin and all hell breaks loose. That was the initial idea, and then it kind of evolved as more of the story kind of really came together. But with the children, I think what it really kind of grounds is it shows you that not only are you responsible for yourself, but you're responsible for these other lives as well. You're responsible for teaching them how to get through this. You're responsible for how they're going to, treat one another coming up in this. Because it's in that world, you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, and you better hope that the person you're showing the examples to, they're at least going to be a decent human being. And they can fend for themselves. That's, without giving any spoilers away, that's really our big arc for Josh in the story. Is he's just gotta grow up really fast.
Yeah, and it's it was a nice kind of, as annoyed as I was at the start, it was I think accurate, right? Like he's a kid. He doesn't know how to do this. He didn't live through this. So he's just,
Yeah,
he's trying to kind of balance a lot of different feelings and interests in this whole situation.
yeah. With that, it's hard because once again, whenever you're making a film, and we did this one time in a film a few years back. It's called The Unraveling by Thomas Jacobson, and there's a twist in the film. But in the film, he kept asking us. He's like, "Hey, well, clearly you, the cast, know that this is going on, but the audience doesn't know. But how should you play?" And you're like, "I guess you just try to play it as straight as you can, and you just go, hey, if the kid's annoying in this part, just let him be annoying. Like, you could say that the backstory of it is, oh, well, the kid's been scavenging for a few months now, and he knows everything. He should be a little more hardened, but." I mean, when a kid's 8 years old, it takes a while for kids to grow up. It just does. Some grow up faster than others.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so you mentioned that this was filmed in Southern California. I guess, how did you
Yeah.
find this location? One thing I really loved about this movie is just the setting, right? Like the mountain is nice and kind of semi-snow covered. The house is just dilapidated, which I thought was really cool. Like, I don't know where you found that. I don't know how that house passed any California building codes, but it looked perfect. So
well, thank you. We owe a majority of that to our fantastic producer, Anna Bradley. She lived up in an area called F.E.A.R Park. So I don't know where you located.
So I'm in Washington, D.C., but I grew up in Southern California and used to go to F.E.A.R
Okay.
Park every year for camping. So
Okay, yeah, so you're familiar. I mean, this place is literally 60 miles outside of Los Angeles. So you can be surfing on a wave, and in January, if there's enough precipitation, you can have, a foot or two of snow up in F.E.A.R Park.
Mhm.
So she found that area up there because it was close to where she actually lives. And my big caveat was like, it's got to have snow. It's got to feel cold and icy and desolate. Like, that's another character in the film that really kind of is just pounding these people down of like, not only do you have to be careful, but you can't even really have that big of a fire. You really can't, signal anybody else. I mean, now you're just taking away like the common decency of warmth, and the stacks of shit that are just stacking up. So she found it up there. We went up there and started location scout, and we found a Girl Scout camp called Camp Lakota. And on Camp Lakota's grounds, they had a small house that was queued for demolition come, I think, spring of 2019, because we shot January of 2019, and we just got to do whatever we needed to the house to make it look the way that it needed to look, make it look like it's been squatted in, to make it look like people have just gone through and tore it up. And it really helped. I'm glad that you enjoyed just the setting and the environment, because if you don't have those pieces, your suspension of disbelief is broken. But yeah, all that was up in F.E.A.R Park.
that is so perfect, because I mean, usually like in an indie film, there's always a budget concern, so you can't exactly like build a house. You can maybe build like a room or something. So just the way that house was destroyed felt really authentic, which was nice to see.
Yeah, it was fun going through that house and tearing it up too. Take some of your frustrations out. Oh, it's not working. Boom, throw an axe into the wall or something.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
But yeah, it really did, because you hit it square on the head. Independent film is challenging. You're working with certain numbers, and you're trying to make every buck stretch.
Definitely. And so I guess, speaking of the challenges of an independent film, how did you go about going from kind of script to getting it made? Did you know people, or was this kind of like you made I know sometimes you make like a highlight reel essentially to show the story and then try to go about that. What was that process like, and how did you kind of navigate those waters? I know those can be very tricky.
Oh, of course, especially trying to make anything. Anybody who gets anything made, my hat is always off to them, because it's very challenging just to find the financing to make stuff. You're asking people to invest in your dream. You're asking them to invest in an idea. It's like a tangible product that you really can't show them. You can show them an idea of it, like you said, a highlight reel, sizzle reel, pitch reel, a lookbook, and then you got the script, which is like your blueprint of how you're going to build this house, if you will. So I had the script, and I was fortunate enough to do a commercial for a man by the name of Blair Pennington, who's one of the executive producers out in Colorado, and met him. Awesome guy. Ended up coming on as a partner in Action Figure Entertainment. And when I met him, I could tell that he was definitely a go-getter. He was an entrepreneur. He wanted to get into film further. He shot some commercials. He had his own camera. He had his own gear. He had his own truck. And I just kept asking him, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to make movies? Do you want to just keep shooting stuff for your company? And he said, well, I want to make film. That's all I really needed to hear. And I introduced him to our partner, Lucas Solomon, who's the other executive producer. I just put those two together, sat them down and just said, what do you guys think? Here's a script that I think is something we could pull off for a modest budget, and it's genre. So, we'd have a better chance of selling in the market because we don't have, Bradley Cooper and Scarlett Johansson in the movie, but we've got people that are up and coming and working hard at their craft. And that's pretty much how everything kind of rolled together. We just started running the numbers and looked at what we could allocate and how we could pull it off. And, great people just see the potential. And if they're in, they are in. So.
Well, now you just make me want to have a Bradley Cooper and Scarlett Johansson zombie film, because that would be the second most attractive zombie film I've seen. F.E.A.R. being the first, obviously. So
that's right. They're like, hey, take that makeup off those guys. They can't be that dingy.
Yeah, no blood on the face, just clean face.
Yeah, that's right.
I know another aspect of any sort of indie film and any film in general is the cast. So how did you kind of get these actors in place? Had you worked with them before? Specifically, your co-star, I guess, Marci Miller. How did you kind of get them in place to do this project?
Marci and I had worked together a few times prior to that. We worked on a movie called Most Likely to Die with Mar Vista back in 2015. And then we shot a Star Wars short in around 2016, 2017. And from working with Marci on day one, she is just an amazing actress. She's constantly present. She's always truthful. She goes for it. She's committed. And when I was writing the film, I had her in mind to play Jo. I did. So cool. I had her face in my mind. And that was my hope, that I was like, I hope she'll enjoy this. Once it was polished and in a good place and I knew that we were going to move forward, I shot her the script. And I just said, hey, I'd love for you to read this. Take a look at Jo. Let me know what you think. And she got back to me the next day and said, oh my God, I love this. I've never been able to play a character like this. This would be great. If you haven't cast it yet, I'd love to play it. And I was like, well, that's the whole reason I'm sending it to you, so that you would want to play this character. So fortunately, she came on. And then after that, with the rest of the cast, we went the more traditional route. We hired a casting company and had them put out breakdowns, and we started getting tape, and we just started going through. And it's amazing to also sit on the other side of that as an actor, to see people's tapes come in, because there are moments that you can just look at tape and go, yeah, that person's, got the character down. They're commanding the scene well. They're doing a fantastic job, not only just with like their body language and their cadence and their pacing, but there's just something about the read that you go, yeah, that's the character, from Cece Kelly coming out from Georgia, Danny Ruiz coming up from San Diego, Justin Dray came on in the last, in the 25th hour, which was great. Gosh, man, I mean, Denver Isaacs was fantastic. We found everybody on tape. Susan Harmon, who plays Desiree in the film, we were blown away by her ability. Her and Marci have such amazing chemistry in the film, great energy flying back and forth. And Susan, when I met her at a Starbucks to follow up with her audition tape, I knew within a few minutes, I was like, yeah, she's going to be fantastic. She's a sweetheart. She's so not her character. She's so the opposite of that.
Yeah. Well, you don't know, right? You don't know until the world ends. Maybe she'll, flip over. You never know.
Yeah. Well, we know she can go there.
Yeah, and she was also really great. I mean, her character is so, kind of rough and toxic and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought she did a really good job, kind of just being in that character and really setting the tone.
Yeah, we were very fortunate to have her on board. She just great.
And so the film is coming out now digitally. I'm wondering, did you have a different release schedule that was thrown, out of whack because of COVID, or was this just the way the process was working naturally?
Just the way that everything was coming together. You're doing everything you can to get the pieces in order. And once you finally get them in order, you start having your sales agent reach out to distributors, and the distributors either are like, yay, or nay. That's kind of how it came together. But this just happened to be the timeline that things really kind of worked their way through, because that's the other part about film is you think it's going to move fast and it rarely does. You're like, oh, we're gonna have this thing buttoned up in 6 months. 2 years later, you're like, okay, now it's finally coming out. So you just got to take it in stride.
Yeah, I know, and especially with this last year, right? Everything was kind of thrown out of whack. So it
Yeah.
seems like a lot of digital movies did come out, but I guess the pipeline was probably pretty clogged up and whatnot. So
Sure.
and I'm always curious when I talk to someone who, starred, wrote, directed, all of that, how much of this film just kind of evolved as you were going? Did you kind of stick to the script, or did you just play it by ear? I know that the script changed from the start, but like while you were filming, did how I don't know, strict is the wrong word, but kind of did the cast adhere to the lines? Did you kind of improvise? Did you play around with some stuff? How did that work?
Geoff and I talked about this a lot when we first sat down, and we're very open to people bringing what they need to the script. If something feels too talky, if it feels too written, then make it your own. As an actor, I love being able to do that myself. Some people are very married to their words. They want you to hit every comma, every period, and you're just going, okay, all right, okay, and that's fine. That's great. Some folks will let you completely improvise. They'll give you just like a loose overview of the scene and just go, that's kind of what's going on. If you guys want to run with it, and we'll shoot one, see what it feels like. We would go off book. Marci even asked me that in the beginning. She was like, hey, how tight are you to the script and everything? I said, Marci, make it your own. If there's pertinent information, if it's important information, we do need to nail that part. Like if it's like a destination, measurements, scientific stuff that's going to be like hearkened to later in the script or the story, we do need to add that. But if, the line is, I'll see you later, and you change it to, well, I guess I'll see you later. Hey, run with it. Go
Like,
with
cut. No, I know what I wrote, Marci. Get back
there. No, because I think when you start handcuffing actors to do that it's just, you lose that energy. You get these great happy accidents when you don't do that. I don't know, actors are there for a reason. They're performers for a reason. Let them perform, So that was something that we were very loose on. I will say this though, due to our shooting restrictions, just on the amount of time that we had to shoot this, the ending in the movie that you saw is completely different from what was written. There's a completely different ending to how the film ends. But I'm still very pleased with what we have. It's very different.
Yeah, just the realities of the schedule, and and you gotta take what you can get. You didn't want to just like firebomb the house, since you could destroy it, right? You could just like set up and smoke.
Walk out of there, Molotov cocktails.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we left it standing, but I mean, I'm sure at this point it's got to be bulldozed and ran over and all that. I believe, it was spring of 2019. It was slated for demolition.
Well, fingers crossed, or maybe not. Maybe it's maybe you can go visit it if you see the movie. Check it out. Fraser Park.
You can make it a little landmark.
Yeah,
not too far.
It's funny that you mentioned, you don't want to handcuff actors. You want to kind of let them breathe. I just talked to a director who essentially he did, after, some of his takes, he would let the actors do like a silly take, and it, just let them kind of go crazy and do what they wanted. And he said, maybe like a quarter of the time he would use the silly take because it like gave them something different, and the actors were able to just kind of like flow with the scene and whatnot. So
yeah, it's true. I mean, I do understand being tight and laying into the script, because I do, and I've been a part of films and shoots where you get too loose, and next thing you know, you're watching the producers and the director have a conversation in the corner, and then they come back and they're like, okay, we're getting a little off the rails here. We got to tone it down. We're not even like covering some of the stuff that we have on the page. So I think every situation is different, but with ours, it worked out, that we had just great professionals doing great work.
all right, and so now I'd like to switch. I call it to the lightning round. It's just kind of lightweight, short questions that are about the film, but I want to see how you relate to the things that happen in the film. They're supposed to be very answerable, but feel free to pass if you don't want to answer them. I won't be offended.
Okay.
It's supposed to be just a little fun exercise, so we'll see what happens.
Gotcha.
First question. In a zombie apocalypse, what weapon are you going to grab? And I chronicled a few in the film. There was a rock, a rifle, a bow, a pistol, like some sort of totem spear thing. What weapon would you grab in this situation?
I would definitely grab something that's lightweight enough that I could swing and not lose a lot of energy with quick, but it's still dense enough to do some damage.
Which would be
Could be a bat. I mean, baseball. I played baseball, so I mean, I know how to swing that thing pretty well. And I mean, a 32-ounce bat, I can swing that for a while. If I had a sword, you know, I think I'd go with a sword too. Swords are pretty cool. I mean, cool factor. You get points for the cool factor.
Similar style too, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a bat in this movie though.
No bats, no swords. Our prop department was very lean.
Yeah, there was one scene where you were going through the house with like a hunting rifle, and I was like, that is the worst weapon to have in this situation.
Right? You do not have a lot of time if there's multiple enemies you need to take down in a very short distance. You know,
Exactly.
chink, boom, bolt action. Yeah.
Second question: do you have any sort of like animal skins? 'Cause I know one of the characters wore like a fox hood, I guess, and you know, I think there were another couple of skins. Do you own any sort of animal skins?
I do not own any animal skins. I was all brought in from wardrobe, and that was just to help emphasize that these people were living in nature and taking it very extremely because of obviously the temperature drops and whatnot, and to give them a little bit of a look that was kind of menacing as well too.
Yeah, no, it definitely gave them like a nomadic kind of like other look. Just they looked so different from, you know, the family in the house, who still looked like they were surviving and kind of scrounging, but just in a different way.
Yeah.
When was the last time you went camping?
Not that long ago. It was in New Year's. It was New Year's night, 2019 going into 2020. Camped in Redwood National Forest up in Northern California. It was beautiful. Oh, it was gorgeous.
Gorgeous to be outside and worry-free and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I hope that everybody that's been dealing with this, I hope they've had some time to get outside and just get into nature. It really helps.
Yeah, definitely. If you have kids, have you taught them how to shoot?
I would definitely teach them how to shoot. I think it's just a skill that if in the event they ever want to even be, you know, a marksman of some sort, if they ever just enjoy, you know, firearms in general, I think it's just something that you should know how to do, from pistols to rifles to even semi-automatics. I think it's something you should at least have the bare bones kind of basic knowledge of.
Yeah, definitely. I remember my dad taught me how to shoot a BB gun, and the first time I had all the safety equipment on, we were shooting a target against the garage door. The BB hit the garage door, ricocheted off, and like almost hit my sister's legs.
Whoa! Almost like the Christmas story, Red Rider BB gun story.
It would have been,
shoot your eye out.
Yeah, it would have been exactly like that. Do you own a generator?
I do not own a generator. I do not own a generator, and that's something that even after we went through, or still going through COVID, that would not be a bad purchase. You know, just a small putt. You know, something that takes even a little bit of gas. You know. Good question.
If you do buy a generator, put it outside. Although I think that the house probably had enough holes in the windows and whatnot that there was plenty of airflow. But
yeah, low carbon monoxide kicking back in there is not good for anybody sleeping.
I mean, I think she was a zombie already, so probably didn't affect her that much. How long do you think you could survive? You know, in the zombie apocalypse, how long do you think you could hold out?
Pretty resourceful. I think I would probably head towards, you know, first try to find food and water. Well, water number one. Maybe I'd take the Zack Snyder route and try to hold up in a mall or something like that, where I think there's like at least maybe a decent amount of access. Try to find some high ground so I know that I can kind of watch my back. I think I'd be okay. I think I'd be all right for a little while. But I guess again, depending on my fellow man, you never know, man.
You sound like you're thinking about the right thing, so I think you'd probably survive for a while. And the last question is, after this movie, do you drink bottled water?
I drink a ton of bottled water. I actually do. I drink a ton of bottled water. I mean, I just bought some at the place we're staying at now. Yeah, I just picked up two liters.
Better safe than sorry, right?
It's true. It's true. Water's life. It's true.
And so the film is out June 15th, 2021 digitally. You're promoting it, you're trying to get it across the finish line. After this is all done, what's next for you? Do you have other projects that you're working on? You're gonna get behind the camera? Are you gonna give that a little break? What's next for you?
Well, I have a film coming out later this year that I did at the end of 2020. It's called A Dangerous Defense by Ted Campbell. I think it'll come out on either Lifetime or Hallmark. But as for us at Action Figure, you know, we've got some stuff that we're looking at. We had something that we were getting ready to shoot in June of 2020 when all this happened. You know, we were getting ready to get rolling and shoot it over the summer. So we've got some things that we're kicking around. We just need to see exactly how the rest of this rollout is going to happen with COVID, because it's for as safe as we need to be, it's a very expensive endeavor to do on a film production scale to make sure that everybody's just taken care of and being safe.
Well, definitely, that makes sense. And yeah, I imagine it's even worse for an indie project because your budget's already stretched so thin, and then you kind of have to stretch it even more.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's necessary.
Well, awesome. Looking forward to seeing what comes next. And this is Jason Tobias, the co-writer, co-director, producer, and star of F.E.A.R, or F.E.A.R, which comes out June 15, 2021. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, David. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. That was Jason Tobias talking about F.E.A.R, or F.E.A.R. It's releasing on digital on June 15, 2021. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. And as always, please go to watcherpass.com for all your movie reviews and recommendations. Thank you.